If you are eating alone tonight, listen closely. This is not about nutrition tips. This is about protecting your independence, your good name, and the peace of your own home. We all worry about losing our memory. It is one of the greatest fears after 60. We worry about repeating stories to the grandchildren. We worry about mixing up our appointments. We worry about the look on the doctor's face when they ask, "Are you remembering to take all your pills?" We often think the first signs of trouble will be blatant forgetfulness, a lost key, a forgotten birthday. But the truth often shows up years earlier, right here at your kitchen table. There are silent warning signs, subtle shifts in your daily routine that look exactly like simple aging, but are actually urgent health alarms, screaming warnings about your heart and blood vessels. Many doctors miss this. Families often dismiss it. They say, "Mom is just getting fussy," or "Dad is just losing his taste." But these two sudden changes in how you interact with food can perfectly mimic the earliest stages of memory loss, when they are, in fact, symptoms of a different, immediate danger. Understanding these two hidden signals can help you stabilize your health, save thousands on unnecessary tests, and most importantly, protect your home and your financial decisions. Think of this as protecting your brain's future, starting right now, with the food on your plate. The two silent changes. The reason these changes are so dangerous is that they damage your dignity first. When you show signs of forgetfulness, family members immediately worry about you driving, managing money, or living alone. You feel the pressure to prove you are still sharp. Let's look at the first silent change you must watch for. 1. The sudden, unexplained change in texture and flavor tolerance. This is not just getting tired of the same old chicken. I mean a profound, rapid shift in the texture or flavor you can tolerate. Maybe you used to love that crunchy salad, the one with the thick nuts and hard carrots. But suddenly, eating it feels like a painful chore. Now everything must be mashed, smooth or soft. Or maybe you are famous for your secret barbecue sauce, or that complex chili recipe with 5 different spices. It's the flavor you have loved and made for 50 years. But lately when you taste it, it feels wrong. It tastes like ash, or bitter vinegar, or just plain metal. You might stop eating familiar textures or complicated dishes rapidly. You start favoring bland, repetitive foods. If this happens, this is not just pickiness or losing your taste buds. This is a specific physical sign that your brain might be struggling to interpret sensory input. The signals coming from your tongue and the feeling of the food in your mouth are being confused before they reach the main processing center. Why is this serious? Because it is often a silent sign of small vessel disease, where the tiny blood vessels deep inside your brain are struggling. It can be a precursor to a silent stroke or a transient ischemic attack, TIA. This looks like memory loss because you might forget to eat healthy, complex foods, but it's actually a sensory processing issue caused by underlying vascular stress. It's your body giving you an urgent, specific warning about your circulation. And circulation is the core of brain health. The second change is even more subtle because it affects the routine of your day, which we usually confuse with simple distraction. Titu, the sudden collapse of meal structure and timing. We're not talking about forgetting to add the salt. We are talking about forgetting the entire process or the schedule of eating. Executive function is the term doctors use for the ability to plan, sequence, and manage tasks. It is what keeps your home safe, your bills paid, and your medicines sorted. When executive function begins to struggle, it first affects routines. You might start preparing dinner at 10 a.m., put the cutting board away, and then forget to turn the stove on until you realize it's 7 p.m. and you haven't eaten. Or conversely, you eat breakfast, then look at the clock 2 hours later and try to eat breakfast again because your internal clock and scheduling mechanism failed to record the action. You are confused about when and if you ate. This confusion about timing and sequence is what looks exactly like standard forgetfulness. But when meal structure collapses quickly, it affects much more than your diet. It affects your ability to manage important things like your bills, your appointments, and crucially, your balance. A senior who is confused about their routine is far more likely to rush, trip, and suffer a fall. Fall prevention starts with clarity and routine. These two eating changes, the sudden sensory intolerance and the sudden loss of meal structure, are vital flags. They are alarms that demand a conversation with your primary care doctor. Focus not just on memory, but specifically on your blood pressure and vascular health. Protecting yourself means acting on these subtle signals early, before they escalate into something that forces you to lose your independence. But understanding the signals is only half the battle. These shifts often start after a major emotional or physical shock, a sudden loss, a big move, or a serious scare. And when you're living alone, that vulnerability is exploited by another hidden danger. In part 2, we are going to look closely at the single most dangerous time for seniors living alone, the hour between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. We will uncover the 3 silent financial and physical traps waiting for you in the middle of the night that erode both your peace and your savings. We spent our first segment drawing a clear line. We learned the difference between simply forgetting the sugar bowl and experiencing a physical difficulty that prevents you from even tasting the sweetness. That distinction is everything. It is the difference between normal aging and a crucial, timely doctor visit. Now let's look closely at the first of the 2 sudden food changes that mimic memory loss. This change often happens in the quiet of your own kitchen, where you feel safe to let down your guard. This first warning sign is a sudden, persistent aversion to specific textures or temperatures. I'm not talking about deciding you don't like broccoli anymore. That's life. I'm talking about something physical, the sudden inability to tolerate certain feelings in your mouth. Think about eating breakfast. You've had the same routine for 20 years. Toast, coffee, maybe some oatmeal. One day, the toast feels alien. It's too crunchy. You find yourself chewing one bite far longer than you should, maybe even spitting it out when no one is looking. Or perhaps your morning coffee. It's too hot. Not too hot like it burns, but too hot for your nerves to process comfortably. It feels overwhelming, metallic, or strange. Maybe it is the opposite. You loved smooth foods like yogurt or pudding, but now the texture feels sticky and threatening in your throat. You start subconsciously avoiding them, favoring water or very thin broth. This is the body sending silent messages. The brain requires complex, coordinated signals to tell your tongue what a crunch means, how warm a liquid is, and how to safely prepare that food for swallowing. When these signals start getting crossed or delayed, it is rarely just pickiness or fussiness. It signals a potential disruption in the cranial nerves, the very pathways that control taste, feeling, and muscle movement in your mouth and throat. We often misinterpret this as low-level memory loss. We think, I forgot that toast hurts my gums, or I must have forgotten how much milk to put in this. But the real struggle is not memory. It is sensation and physical control. If this texture avoidance is sudden and persistent, lasting more than 2 weeks, it demands attention. This is especially true if it involves difficulty chewing or swallowing. Why are we focusing on this specific change? Because issues with nerve supply to the mouth and throat are classic early indicators of minor vascular events, often called TIAs, transient ischemic attacks, or mini-strokes. These are brief blockages that may resolve quickly, but they damage small parts of the brain responsible for coordination and sensation. They are massive red flags warning that a larger stroke might be coming soon. A stroke is the fastest way to lose the very independence you are fighting to protect. It can leave you unable to communicate, walk, or even manage your own hygiene. We must stop the cycle where we excuse these physical symptoms as simple forgetfulness. We must shift our mindset from shame to security. If you find yourself rearranging your diet drastically because common foods are suddenly uncomfortable, do not keep this secret. Do not let the loneliness of eating alone compound the risk. Start a small, quiet log. Write down 3 things you ate yesterday that felt wrong. Was it the difficulty of chewing the steak? The overwhelming heat of the tea? This log is not for your children to judge. It is for your doctor. It turns a vague complaint, I just can't eat much anymore, into precise data that points directly toward a vascular screening. Ask your physician, Could this sudden change in how food textures feel be related to blood flow or nerve health? This simple, brave question protects your brain and your future independence. It shows you are actively managing your health, not simply waiting for things to happen. Remember, eating less because you forgot to shop is a memory issue. Eating less because your favorite food suddenly feels dangerous or impossible to swallow is a structural, physical issue that requires urgent attention. Now, while this first warning sign deals with sensation and muscle control, the second hidden food change deals with something even more insidious. It focuses on how we manage the sequence and timing of our daily routines. It mimics memory loss perfectly because it looks exactly like simple disorganization or a loss of interest. But the reality, again, may point to a much deeper, hidden physical struggle. We will unpack that crucial second warning sign in our next segment, the subtle change that can drain your energy and financial security without you even noticing. We have talked about the sudden plate messes, the food that seems to land everywhere but in your mouth. That was the first sign, often related to coordination and subtle vision shifts that feel like, I'm just clumsy today. But there is a second, even more critical sudden food change. It is a change that often forces people to eat alone and leads directly to deep nutritional problems. This is the burnt texture switch. Listen closely to this one. Think about a meal you used to love. Maybe it was a thick, crunchy piece of toast, or a tough, flavorful pot roast, or even a simple piece of fresh corn on the cob. Now, imagine you start avoiding it. Not because you forgot you liked it, but because the mere thought of chewing it feels exhausting or even frightening. You begin to tell yourself, and perhaps your loved ones, I just don't care for hard foods anymore. Or Saibemir, my appetite is down, so I'll stick to soup. This sudden, unexplained switch toward only soft, smooth, or heavily pured foods is a giant red flag. It is the texture switch, and it mimics memory loss because others assume you are forgetting how good these foods taste, or that you are simply becoming a fussy eater. But this is almost never forgetfulness. This sudden aversion to challenging textures, anything requiring careful, repetitive chewing, is often the body signaling a problem in the delicate mechanics of the mouth and throat. It signals what doctors call dysphagia, difficulty swallowing. And difficulty swallowing is a serious physical symptom. It dramatically increases the risk of aspiration, where food or liquid goes down the wrong pipe, leading quickly to pneumonia. In the 60-plus age group, a sudden onset of swallowing difficulty, just like the coordination issues we discussed earlier, can be an immediate warning sign of silent neurological damage, a mini-stroke, or TIA, that affected the cranial nerves that control swallowing. We are so focused on preventing falls and protecting our savings that we often forget to protect this simple act of eating. Think about the home dynamics here. When you start struggling with texture, you stop eating certain things in public. You become ashamed of coughing, or having to secretly spit out a piece of tough meat that you couldn't properly chew. This fear drives loneliness. You decline invitations to family dinners because you don't want the embarrassment of choking. You start eating in the quiet safety of your own kitchen, where nobody is watching your plate. And that feeling of isolation, that is where memory really starts to decline, not from the texture switch itself. This also touches on money wisdom. When you switch to only soft foods, you often end up eating processed, softer, less nutritious foods. Foods high in simple carbohydrates and low in necessary protein and fiber. This nutritional decline makes you weaker, less stable, and more prone to the kind of falls that cost tens of thousands in medical bills and rehabilitation. Spending money wisely means investing in the nutrition that keeps you strong and independent. So how do you catch the texture switch before it causes isolation or a serious health scare? You need 2 simple daily health protection checks. The first check is the water test. Watch yourself carefully when drinking plain water. Water is the hardest thing to swallow if you have early dysphagia because it moves so fast. If you suddenly find yourself needing to take smaller sips, or if water frequently makes you cough, that is a physical warning. Do not dismiss it as a momentary choke. The second check is the voice check. After you swallow, does your voice sound wet, gurgly, or bubbly? That is called a wet voice, and it means there may be residue sitting on your vocal cords. a high risk for aspiration. If you observe the texture switch, the water test failure, or the wet voice, you do not need to panic, but you absolutely need to talk to your primary doctor or dentist immediately. You're not forgetting things. Your body is telling you something critical has changed physically. Ask for a swallowing assessment. Be firm. Say, I'm concerned about my aspiration risk, not my memory. Protecting your dignity means taking these subtle physical signs seriously before they lead to serious illness. Do not let the texture switch drive you into eating alone and into a state of nutritional deficiency. Your independence rests on your ability to eat safely and joyfully. We have now covered the two main sudden food changes that mimic memory loss, the messy plate and the texture switch. These are primarily health and independence warnings. In the final part of our discussion, we will shift focus slightly to the habits around food that indicate a deeper problem with financial security and home stability. We are going to look at the one crucial habit in your kitchen that, if neglected, signals to everyone, including those who might want to take advantage, that you're no longer fully in control of your home and your funds. This final warning is critical for protecting your peace of mind and your bank account. We have covered the subtle shifts in the taste and texture preferences, the sudden rejection of crunchy foods, or the new obsession with soft comfort meals. But there is a second major change that mimics memory loss, and it happens right at the dinner table. This change is about physical execution. It is the sudden, inexplicable loss of coordination while eating. Think back to the last meal you ate, maybe alone, maybe with the family. Were you unusually messy? Did you miss your mouth slightly more often than usual? Perhaps you found yourself dropping utensils or leaning down toward the plate more aggressively than before. It is easy to dismiss this as just getting older, or a little morning stiffness. But when these physical mishaps become sudden and consistent, meaning they appeared rapidly, not slowly over years, they demand immediate attention. When the brain struggles, one of the first things to go is the fine motor control required for complex tasks like cutting meat, balancing a spoonful of soup, or moving food seamlessly from one side of the mouth to the other. If you are constantly spilling your coffee, or suddenly find that cutting a simple piece of toast is exhausting, that is not memory loss. That is a physical warning sign, often linked to subtle neurological distress or early signs of vascular issues that affect blood flow to the brain. Imagine the shame we feel when we have to ask a grandchild to cut our food, or when we are constantly wiping crumbs off our shirt. We start avoiding public dinners. We withdraw. This withdrawal is often labeled depression, when the root cause might be a physical issue that impacts dignity. We must stop accepting unnecessary shame as part of aging. This is critical. If you experience both the sudden change in taste, sign 1, and this new clumsiness or difficulty handling utensils, sign 2, you must communicate this clearly to your doctor. Do not just say, I feel forgetful. Say, Doctor, I have noticed within the last 3 months that I suddenly choke more easily on water, and I seem to be dropping my fork or missing my mouth several times a week. Specific examples force the doctor to look beyond simple anxiety or depression. They lead to the vascular checks, the blood pressure, the heart rhythm, and the carotid artery scan that can spot and prevent a major stroke. You are protecting your independence by being a precise historian of your own body. Now, let's bring this wisdom home. Protecting your health also means protecting your kitchen from being a source of stress or danger. If you have noticed these two signs, the sudden taste aversion and the new clumsiness, it is time for simple, immediate action in your kitchen routine. First, check your dining environment. If you eat alone, make sure your chair supports your back fully and your feet are flat on the floor. Proper posture is vital for proper swallowing. Do not eat while slumped on the couch watching TV. That position forces food down unnaturally and increases aspiration risk. Sit upright at a table. Treat yourself with respect, even when you are alone. Second, commit to managing stress around meal preparation. Stress constricts blood vessels and muscle function, If the effort of cooking is exhausting you, simplify the menu drastically. It is better to have 3 perfectly healthy, simple meals, like broth, steamed vegetables, and soft fish, than to endure a complex, stressful cooking process that leaves you too tired or shaky to eat safely. Third, hydration is your silent medicine. Many seniors mistake thirst for hunger. Dehydration thickens saliva and makes swallowing harder, amplifying the choking risk. Keep a glass of water nearby at all times, but remember the rule: sip, do not gulp. Gulping water is a common trigger for that scary, sudden choke that feels like a full stop. Remember, the goal of this entire discussion is not to frighten you, but to empower you. We are not just talking about food. We are talking about your independence. Every piece of food you chew, every sip you take, is a negotiation with gravity and time. Mastering these subtle changes allows you to take control before a minor issue becomes a crisis that compromises your ability to live alone, manage your finances, or enjoy your retirement. Protecting your independence means securing your health first, because if you cannot manage your own body, the control over your money and your home quickly follows. We have addressed the critical physical warnings hidden in your daily diet, but there is another type of hidden warning that impacts dignity even more profoundly: the emotional toll of dealing with possessions and financial records when living alone. In the next part, we will pivot to the home itself. We will discuss the 2 critical papers you must immediately locate and organize tonight to ensure your home and savings are protected, regardless of what tomorrow brings. This is the financial wisdom that keeps your private life private and prevents family arguments before they even start. Stay with me.